So the first thing you're going to do before tech inspection is get your registration paperwork. That's going to be in the classroom or the registration tent. And just make sure it's got your name on it, your correct race number, all the races you entered, and appropriate practices and qualifying. So you're going to take this along with your gear. For the first round, you need to take all of your gear. That's helmet, suit, gloves, boots, back protector. Everyone after that, it's just your helmet, provided you don't crash. So your suit needs to be leather. One piece or two piece zipped together is okay. And a little bit of rash is okay. Dirty is fine. What's not okay is holes. So you don't want to be able to see any skin through the holes. So that's no good. This fails. This is a good suit. You want to make sure that you've got your med form completed and tucked into your breast pocket here, which most suits have. A plastic bag is a good idea because it rains a lot. They can get wet and ruined. So that stays in your suit for the entire year. The next thing is a back protector. This is mandatory. You either have a plastic back protector or a built-in one to an internal airbag vest, like an Alpenstars or a Dainese. That's good too. Airbags, highly recommended. Awesome piece of safety equipment. They also make an external one like this that goes outside of the suit and is hooked up to your bike with a tether in case you fall off. Another optional piece of equipment is a rain vest like this. This goes over your suit to keep you dry in a rain race. Keeps your leather from getting stinky and shrinking. This is awesome. The next thing we check is gloves. They have to be full gauntlet style, so they go all the way over your wrist. They need to be leather, no holes. Boots, same deal, leather, no holes, 8 inches minimum from the sole and up. And if you have any questions, refer to the current year rulebook. Usually the first piece of gear we check is your helmet. It needs to be clean, free of scratches, free of dents, any major evidence of a crash. This one obviously fails. This one fails too, just because you can see some of the fiberglass there from a previous crash. This one's good to go. It needs to be 2015 Snell, ECE, or BSI or newer rated. On the Arise, you can see the date on the chin strap. Visor's free and clear of scratches. It's a full face, it's not a modular, it's not an open face. So this passes. Once it does, we'll give you a sticker on the back of the helmet, and that's good for the whole year, unless you crash again, in which case we'll inspect it again.
Hi, I'm Heidi. I'm your Chief Technical Inspector for the WMRRA season of 2022. Yeah, I am not a current racer, so you can find me in my pits if you have any questions, or you can email me from the website. With me today, I also have Paul we're gonna do a walk around on the bike to help you guys get ready for your 2022 season.
So the first thing you want to do is have your gear already teched, your helmet with a sticker with your bike, and your registration paperwork. You're gonna bring your bike to technical inspection, which will be by the classroom usually, and you always remove your belly pan. For round 1, you bring your belly pan, we'll inspect it, we'll put a sticker on your bike that says you're good to go for the season unless you crash. Now we're gonna talk about what we look for at tech inspection. We usually start with the belly pan, and we'll make sure there's no holes in it, it's free of cracks, and mounting points are intact. After that's been checked okay, we'll put a sticker on your front fairing. That means you're good for the whole year unless you crash, in which case we'll inspect you again. When I inspect, I usually start at the front of the bike, and I check that the front wheel weights are taped, and the caliper bolts are wired properly. The front pinch bolts on the axle need to be wired. If you've got pinch bolts on 2 sides, one side's good enough. The axle needs to be wired, unless you've got a flush mount style axle like on this Triumph Daytona, those don't have to be wired. The grips have to be in place. The clip-on bars have to be rounded with plugs in the end, no open bars. You need to have a brake lever guard, that's mandatory. All the levers need to be ball end. If they're broken off at the end, get a new lever. The steering needs to go lock to lock without interfering with the bodywork or the dash. The speedometer needs to be taped over if practical. And that's about it for the front end. So moving on to the rest of the bike, we're going to check the gas tank is free from leaks. These gas tank guards are a great idea, and they're actually mandatory on some bikes, so make sure you read the rule book and find out which ones they are. The radiator cap needs to be safety wired. The radiator needs to have water wetter, anything with no glycol. If you've got an oil dipstick, that needs to be wired, no D-clips. D-clips are okay on the oil filler cap as long as it's hardwired to some other point on the bike. And the same goes with anything else with a D-clip. Anytime you get a D-clip, it's got to be wired to a hard point on the bike. Moving back, your rear sets, the pegs need to be rounded, no sharp edges. The rear brake needs to be functional. The muffler needs to be wired at its mounting point to the bike, usually the frame. It needs to have a triangulated mounting bracket. The rear wheel weights need to be taped, just like the front. The axle needs to be wired. D-clips are okay. The rear caliper bolts do not have to be wired. That's only on the front. And then moving on to the chain, we'll check the master link, make sure that it's properly riveted if it's a rivet style. If it's a clip style, we'll make sure it's going the right direction. Make sure that it's RTV silicone glued or safety wired. Either one's okay, or both. We'll check your chain slack. Make sure that it's not coming off the sprockets. Make sure the sprockets are okay, not too sharp, not too worn out. And then moving to the front of the sprocket, we'll check that the front sprocket, the nut on there either needs to be safety wired or a locking tab washer is fine too, like from the OEM. Either way, you can run without a cover if you like also, that's fine. The next thing we check for is engine covers. You need aftermarket engine covers on your clutch, alternator, and sometimes a crank cover as well. And that includes Delrin plastic or nylon or a complete aftermarket replacement metal cover. If it's available for your bike, it's probably mandatory, so check the rule book. The next thing we look at is the oil drain plug. That needs to be safety wired, no D-clips. The OEM oil filters are the only ones allowed. If you want to run an aftermarket one, you have to clear it first with Heidi or CJ, and the answer is usually no. And you need to C-clamp it and wire that to a hard point on the bike. We check the coolant hoses, make sure that they're free of leaks, cracks, that they have clamps on them that are either worm drive or Oedeker style. No OEM style spring clamps are allowed. And then the last thing I'll usually check is the camera. If you want to run a GoPro camera, you need to have it wired and present for tech inspection. If it looks good, we will put a sticker on it. It needs to have your name and your race number on it, and then you're good to go for the weekend.